Today we're going to be talking about the third feature of categorical propositions, which can also be called general schema. So what is that? Let's just have a quick look. So we have the subject term and the predicate term. We talked about those in the last lecture also. Today we're going to be talking about briefly about what connects them. So if we say that all S is P, where S and P are the subject and predicate terms, what about the word that comes between these terms, which is in this case? And if I say that some S is not P, so is not would be the term that comes between these two terms. So other examples, just quickly look at those. Some Roman emperors were monsters, some soldiers will not be heroes, and some all squares are rectangles. So all these verbs that I'm talking about, which are were, are, will not be, are called copulas. Okay. So what is a copula? It is any form of the verb to be that serves to connect the subject term with the predicate term in a categorical proposition. Okay, so with that, we can understand categorical propositions having four parts. So the first part is the quantifier. Remember we talked about the first property, which was quantity. So जो हमने all or some की बात की थी, that would be the quantifier, this part right here. Then we had the subject term, okay? And then right at the end, we have the predicate term. So the subject term is being connected to the predicate term with copula, which is any verb that we just looked at. So is, were, all these examples that we just looked at. So this is the third property of categorical propositions, okay? The fourth one is called distribution, and this is a bit more technical than copula. So let's just try. I hope you can keep up with what I'm trying to tell you. So a proposition distributes a term if it refers to all members of the class designated by that term. Okay, so how many terms are there? There are two terms, subject term and the predicate term. Okay, so in propositions, which we talked about, the A, E, I, and O propositions, we have to look at which of these two terms is being distributed in all these propositions. Okay, so but what does distribution mean? First, let's just look at that. If I look at a proposition and say, example, all senators are citizens. So what are the subject, what are the terms? Let's just look at those first. So senators is your subject term and citizens is your predicate term, right? That's how it is. So now we have to look at which of these two terms or whether both of them are being distributed in this A proposition or not. So distribution का हमने क्या definition दिया कि अगर एक class में एक term के सारे members की बात हो रही है, ठीक है? So then we would say that particular term is being distributed. So इस proposition में अगर हम देखें, इसमें क्या हो रहा है? We are saying कि all senators are citizens. यानी कि दुनिया में कोई ऐसा senator नहीं है जो citizen नहीं है, ठीक है? यानी कि सारे senators जो हैं दुनिया में वो citizens हैं. So that means you're talking about all the senators in the world, right? But can we say the same thing about citizens? No, we can't. We're not talking about all the citizens in the world. We can't say that all the citizens in the world are senators. So that means that in A propositions, the subject term is distributed. Similarly, let's look at the E proposition. For example, if we say that no athletes are vegetarians, इसमें क्या हो रहा है? इसमें हम कह रहे हैं कि दुनिया में कोई ऐसा एथलीट नहीं है जो वेजिटेरियन है, ठीक है? सो इसमें हम क्या कह रहे हैं? इसमें हम कह रहे हैं कि दोनों टर्म्स जो हैं वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड हैं, बिकॉज वी टॉकिंग अबाउट athletes as a whole, all the athletes in the world, and we're saying that talking about all the vegetarians in the world as well. So आप इसको mutually exclusive के तौर पे देख सकते हो, ठीक है? So we can also put it in this sense that the whole class of vegetarians is excluded from the whole class of athletes. So अगर पूरी की पूरी classes एक दूसरे से exclude हो रही हैं, so naturally we're talking about the entire classes. all the members in those classes, right? So this means that both in E proposition, this is what you have to remember, the subject as well as the predicate term are both distributed. I proposition का क्या केस है? I proposition, let's just say होती क्या थी? So इसका एक clear example मैंने दिया है यहाँ पर. Some soldiers are cowards. So इसमें हम लोग क्या कह रहे हैं कि कुछ ऐसे soldiers हैं जो cowards हैं. ठीक है? I proposition में ये हो रहा है कि इसमें कोई दोनों terms जो हैं subject और जो आपकी predicate term है दोनों undistributed है. We're not talking about all the soldiers in the world or all the members that could be put in that set of soldiers. And obviously, we're not talking about all the cowards in the world, right? We're not saying कि सारे cowards जो हैं वो soldier हैं. We're just talking about कि कुछ ऐसे soldiers हैं जो cowards हैं. So obviously, we're referring to not all members of these two terms. So I have written over here as well because it says nothing about each and every soldier and nothing about each and every coward, right? So that's a good way to look at it. कि क्या वो proposition जो है वो सारे members को refer करी है जो एक set दिए हुए हैं यानी कि subject और predicate terms के. That's a good way to look at it. Okay, lastly, the O proposition. इसमें another example. Some horses are not thoroughbreds. ठीक है? अब इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि इसमें the subject term is not distributed but the predicate term is distributed. Subject term का तो it's pretty clear कि हम लोग all horses की बात नहीं कर रहे, हम some horses की बात कर रहे हैं. But if you look at thoroughbreds, no, इसमें क्या हो रहा है कि हम लोग कह रहे हैं कि because they are excluded from the whole of the latter class, यानी कि some horses जो हैं are not thoroughbreds. So हम लोग जो thoroughbreds का set देख रहे हैं वो हम एक पूरा एक मुकम्मल सेट देख रहे हैं और हम कह रहे हैं कि उसके अंदर कोई ऐसे घोड़े नहीं है जो some horses are not thoroughbreds. ठीक है? तो thoroughbreds का जो केस है वो पूरा हम एक सेट देख रहे हैं because ये not thoroughbreds की बात हो रही है. So O proposition में what you have to remember is that the predicate term is distributed. ठीक है? Because इस केस में thoroughbreds का हम सारा का सारा सेट के अंदर जितने members हैं we're looking at all of them. Okay, I hope this is clear. If it's not, please write to me and I will try to explain it in a better way. So with that, let's just look at the definition of distribution. So distribution is an attribute that describes the relationship between a categorical proposition and each one of its terms, indicating whether or not the proposition makes a statement about every member of the class represented by a given term. Okay, so the term obviously being the subject or the predicate term. With that, we're done with the properties of categorical propositions. So we हमने universal propositions की बात की, but particular propositions की बात भी की, and we said that those were the quantities. Then we also talked about the quality, which was the affirmative proposition and the negative proposition. हमने A, E, I, O pretty much looked at all of them. And now we also know कि इन सारी propositions में यानी चारों की चारों में which terms are being distributed and which aren't. Okay. So with that, this is what I would want you to do at home. So name the quality and quantity of the following propositions. So you have to do that. It's very easy. And state whether the subject and predicate terms are distributed or undistributed. Okay. So सबसे पहले you figure out which proposition is this. Then you decide what the quality and the quantity are, and then also which terms are being distributed or not being distributed. Okay, so this is the second one. Okay, all right. So this is it. Thank you, and see you in the next class. Okay, bye.